Welcome back to a bit gamey, and I don't know what this is. This is Ramillies 2, which is how I'm going to get to the Battle of Ramillies in stages. The deal with Ramillies, or with me generally, is that I don't particularly like one-off games. I like games that are part of a narrative, a story, or a campaign. And one of the things I thought about when I was reading up on all this 100 Years War, not 100 Years War, 7 Years War and all that, for this horse and musket period, is I got to the Battle of Ramillies, and I could see how you could turn that into a 4-battle game where each battle had an effect on the succeeding ones. So it'd be like 4 battles. There's one on the right flank, one on the left, one on the right centre, and then a combined, the effect of all those was combined into the 4th one. And you could do it at any scale, obviously, but I was thinking of it on the 3-foot table. But you could do it on a full table, and just you'd have the final battle on the 6x4, and the two flank battles on, say, a 4x4, and the sort of the right centre one on a I don't know, sort of 4x4 or more, I don't know. But anyway, so that's the general idea. And this is me thinking about what I need in terms of terrain to get what I want. And this is the first one of the 4 battles, of how I'm sort of imagining it. Because what it was, there was a river along what is on the right side of the battlefield, which was effectively the border. So that's the right edge of the field, and there was a large marsh all along the edge of the river, with a village at some point in the battle line, in the French battle line, and some open space on the left, which was dominated by cavalry. And so setting it up like this is just to give me an idea of what I need. So I mean, fairly obviously, I need more marsh. You can do it like this with just a little scatter terrain, sort of signifying the terrain. But I feel I'm going to want some more of the kind of marsh bases like that, and not loads of them, but on this table, you could, in theory, you could have I don't know, three of those instead of just the one. So that's the first point. I need more marsh. The roads are fine. I mean, I should be painting them really, but I think the roads are fine, and then the flat land is flat land, so that's okay. So there's probably more that I could do, but the real thing is more marshland, and figure out what to do about the village, because a lot of these battles in the 100, I keep saying 100 years war, in the 70s, in the horse and musket period, there's a lot of villages as part of the battle line. The front line extends for kilometres, miles, and so there's plenty of scope for villages to be part of it, and they were a fairly significant part of it. So I was there's the extra marsh bases, and how to do villages. And my kind of current thought is I want to make a little kind of diorama sort of village base with roads going through it, and some houses and whatever, and a spot on the base for a battalion to defend it. And so I'm sort of roughly kind of deciding how to do it by using those bits of card. So that's about a foot 1 foot by 1 foot card to be the village, and I'm trying to think, how it needs to be. Well, and is that too much? Is it could it be a 9" by 9", or 8 by 8, or whatever, 10 by 10? So that's what the experiment is for. Is to kind of get a kind of bird's eye view and see what's the right size. So yeah, so in theory I'm using 1 Hour Wargames, but in reality I'm using 1 Hour Wargames as the foundation for everything else. So it can change, and yeah, and doing the again, picking the sort of 1 Hour Wargame system where the attacker often has six units and the defenders 4, which you normally roll a dice for, but in this case I was because it's based on an historical situation, I was leaving it sort of vaguely historical, or at least in my idea of what was roughly historical. Because you had you had on the French side you had a bunch of infantry battalions in the village on the marshy side, and cavalry on the left. And the cavalry aren't that important, because I'm saying the cavalry can't go on to the marsh, I'm saying, and infantry on the marshes, they're not light infantry, they're going to be disorganized, which is why I've got them sort of on the marsh there. That's to signify that they get disorganized when they go onto the marsh, and the battalion in the village is going to have separate spots to show that they're garrisoning the village, and elsewise the any other battalion that goes, they can only stay on the road. So the choice is you're in the column along the road, or you're defending the village. So anyway, this is all probably too rambly, but yeah. And on the British and Allied side, you've got there's some grenadiers on the road, a cannon, and 3 other battalions of line infantry, and cavalry on the left, on their left, on my on their right, my left. So anyway, so that's the idea. It's just to try it out, basically. So I'll give that a little go. So just to make little notes for myself as I'm going along. The standard in 1 Hour Wargames, the standard infantry move is 6 inches. So I will change that to be 4 inches in line and 8 inches in column. What's the other thing? Oh yeah, so the British moved up, and it says in the 1 Hour Wargames rules, it says marsh is impassable to all. Whereas I'm saying it's impassable to artillery and cavalry, but infantry can move through it, but they're disrupted when they do so. So that's that. On thinking more about the village size and how much it's what you need to have on it. I mean, I am thinking like a foot does seem to be about a foot square. Does seem likely. If you imagine that those 4 corners, if 3 of them had buildings, and one had that little pond, that pretty much takes up all the space. If you imagine other bits, little walls and hedges and a little tree here and there. So it does. I do think that's probably about the right size. Yeah, the movement, blah blah blah. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, in those rules you can't move and fire. So as the British advance, the cannon fired and then getting casualties. It's a D6 -2 in the 1 Hour Wargames rules. Only for a 2. So anyway, so that's that. So in the French turn, charged, you get a D6 plus 2, and then you halve the casualties against cavalry unit. So the British cavalry lost 2, and the infantry in the village, French infantry in the village, fired at the British grenadiers, and in the rules, it's you roll as a battalion and with a 360 degree firing arc, but I'm going to change that to so that you can fire in 3 directions, but a d6 -2. So anyway, they got no casualties on the grenadiers. British turn. They attacked the French cavalry. Blah blah blah. They moved up everywhere. The grenadiers moved onto the marsh on the left of the village, leaving room for the other battalion to move on to the right. Another thought on the whole village thing is doing it in chunks. So like doing four quarters as separate bases, and then you just put them around so you can mix them up and move them around. Like for example, that pond could be one of the 4 bases, and have a little kind of dioramic village where you instead of having just a building, you put a building in a kind of in a, what would you call it? With a yard basically, with a garden, with a fence. And then you had 3 or 4 of these separate things, and you put them around on the village in whatever order you want. So that's I'm going to come around to that now. I think I'm going to have sort of 5 or 6 inch squares with dioramic villagey things. So so they're moving up very slowly because they're only 4 inches in the marsh, but faster along the on the approach to the village. And the other rule is the artillery are blasting away and doing no damage at all. But I'm also saying that when artillery attacks a village square, there's a chance of a fire. So as well as firing for casualties, if they throw a 6, there's a fire as well, which are going to be 1 casualty per turn. And so it's put out. Okay. British moved up. Cannon hit for the artillery hit for 3 on the battalion in the village, and the grenadiers hit for 4. So that's 7 down on the battalion in the village. The British cavalry, the cavalry fight carries on. Artillery and the rest all just moved. The other thing that I was changing from the base rules is they say infantry fire range is 12 inches, so I'm making that 8, because I sort of feel that in this period it sort of you should feel a bit more up close and personal. So sorry about the shaky cam, but this is more for diary than actual battle. So British moved up. British moved again. Cavalry is still fighting. 2 units on the either side of the road hitting the village. They're up to 9 damage now. The artillery fired, didn't cause any casualties, but they did set it on fire. So from the next turn, the French unit in the village will be taking 1 casualty per turn from the fire. You can see I'm not not taking the casualties off right away, because I just want to try using the regular rules as much as possible to get an idea of how long units should last. But anyway, what is it? It's a British turn again. Artillery on the village. 1 wound from the fire, and the 2 disorganized units attacking across the road. So that's finally got up to 15 for the battalion in the village. So that's them gone. The cavalry are getting close, 13 and versus 11 or 11 and 12 casualties each. These aren't doing very much because you know, they've got such a low chance of hitting. But anyway, yeah. So the that French battalion is gone. In the French turn, the French cavalry get rid of the British one, so that's them done. And the second, well, it's Irish but French battalion move up into the village, unhurt so far. And this lot, you know, they fight and they shoot but don't hit anything. So British turn, you got the artillery and the two disorganized battalions firing at the village, getting them up to onto 6, +1 from the fire. Infantry on the right doesn't do anything, and the infantry on the near the back row moves onto the marsh to shoot at the cavalry. And the cavalry are kind of stuck on this because they can't move onto the marsh, and so, you know, that's going to be a fixed conclusion pretty much. So French cavalry move back. The second French battalion shooting just a few casualties on the attacking battalions, and the battalion on the right misses. British turn. There's the two battalions on the village do some more casualties. The French put the fire out, so they don't get that anymore, and the artillery didn't start it again. And you know, the shooting on the right is ineffective. The French cavalry pull back on the left, and the battalion in the marsh decides to just stay there for now. So the battalion in the village is on 10. So, you know, it's not going to, you know, they're going to lose by the look of it, and the battalions attacking them are on 3 and 4. So not good for them. On the battalion defending the village, so that's them gone. They're on 5 and 6 casualties themselves. No fire in the village. Nothing happened on the right, and nothing happening on the left, because this is kind of like how it's meant to be set up. There's a big open ground on the left, full of cavalry, and so the you know, the infantry don't really want to go on to that. I may change some rules about that eventually, but yeah. So yeah, the that unit is now gone. Back and forth for a while, but with the 3 battalions firing, you know, from the outside, all of them disorganized, but still firing, and half casualties in the town on top of that. But the artillery set it on fire again, so that's one casualty a turn, and 3 battalions. So that's eventually got to the 15, and that battalion's gone. So I haven't been removing the actual casualties as figures this time, because I'm just you know, I want to, you know, using the 1 hour Wargames rules just to get a feel for it, of, you know, how long it should be. I mean, I'm going to be doing that eventually. But yeah, so anyway, so that battalion's gone. So all done. I don't know if that was an hour. It might have been. It's definitely within that sort of range. I mean, I don't particularly want 1 hour games. You know, I like them to be a bit more, go on a bit longer. But as it's going to be 1 of 4, I could, you know, potentially do all 4 in, you know, one afternoon, maybe, or maybe 2. But yeah, so that worked out okay. I mean, there's various things I'll be changing or whatever, but the main thing, I think that kind of worked out okay. As I say, I'm using all the using the 1 hour Wargames way of having, you know, 15 hits takes out a unit, but I'm gonna, you know, figure out the best way to do that. I was planning on doing it, you know, 4 casualties on a line infantry, it runs away. But we'll see. Oh yeah, so the last thing was the artillery over there took out the last French cavalry. But the main idea behind it is that you know, you've got two distinct terrains, and you know, the cavalry on the plains can't really deal with the marsh, and so you get this attack on the right flank, which takes out the village. But more importantly, it creates a kind of flanking fire in the next battle, or well, it could be the second or the third, is on the plains with lots of cavalry fighting. You know, just basically all cavalry. But but whoever wins, they get a bonus fire on their right flank. So if you imagine, you know, if this was shifted across, if this terrain was effectively, you know, shifted across, so that the table edge is actually the edge of the marshy bit, then, and you have your cavalry battle going on the table, but the winner of this battle then gets some kind of artillery or infantry fire from the right edge. They don't have to be on the table, but they're just on the right edge, and they, you know, as a kind of randomly thing. So anyway, so that's all fine. It's all going okay. I mean, as far as the rest of the battles go, I need a lot more cavalry, but I don't worry about that for now. The main point of this was just, you know, getting a feel for the range and the distance and all that, and in particular thinking about the train. And so that that worked. I've got a clear plan now for the village terrain. Do it in, you know, 5" by 5" squares, which, you know, with roughly 2" on the roads. You know, it basically comes to a like this. If it was like this with 4 of those 5" by 5" on the corners, and a roughly 2" road going through, that gives you your foot square terrain, but in a way that can be you know, more modular. So yes, that's good. So I need some more marsh bases, large marsh bases. I mean, you can do it just like this, with it's just little scatter bases, but I think a couple more, or yeah, a couple more of these would be worthwhile. What else is there? Yeah. So marsh tiles and 5" village. Oh God, can't talk properly. Marsh tiles and 5" village tiles is what I need. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if that's entertaining to anyone, but it's as a diary entry, it's entertaining to me. And as a little addendum, the 3 battalions that attacked the village were all on 8 or 9 casualties. So it's the balance was just about right in terms of, you know, in terms of historical outcome. You know, it worked out how you expect, but it was touch and go at the end, because the casualties were very, you know, low and random, and it's just possible the defenders might have made it, but not likely. But that's kind of what I want to be the kind of, to fit the historical what do you call it, outcome. Yeah, because that did kind of work out the way it did historically, but, you know, with the chance, with the defenders having a chance. Okay, to the pit.